Well, as we all can tell from the music, it must be St. Patrick's Day.
It certainly is. And welcome to St. Patty's Day, everybody. Paul, you are our special guest today. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yes. So everyone out there who's typically listened to our podcast usually knows the format is we have a guest and we have a 20-minute conversation and then we kind of wrap it up. This year we were having a conversation in the office and we were talking about all the Irish this and Irish that in anticipation of St. Patrick's Day. And, basically I'm the only Irishman that's actually in the office.
I would say the only full-blooded Irishman, but Angela Wilhelm, who's our marketing coordinator, has a percentage of Irish in her, don't you, Angela?
2% Irish.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Yeah, oh, man. And honestly, all things being transparent here, I have no Irish blood, but I love to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, so 100% of that is happiness.
An does Irish coffee count?
Irish coffee, good call, man. That's what I'm having tonight. Love that.
Excellent. So, I don't know if anyone out there knows this, but I'm originally from the East Coast. Actually, my family is from South Boston.
South Boston. Is that what you call Southie? Is that what
Southie,
South Boston?
yes.
Southie.
I mean, I did move away when I was rather young, but all my cousins and stuff were there, so I would visit. I went to the suburbs.
Angela, listen to Paul as he's talking. I'm beginning to detect a bit of an accent coming back in.
Yeah.
Listen to what he's saying. My goodness.
I try to hold that back, and every so often it just rears its ugly head. South Boston is the southern section of Boston, just below North Boston, which is the Italian section. And South Boston is predominantly Irish working class, very working class.
Very working class.
That's when I left. It has changed greatly since I left.
So in that part of Boston, St. Patrick's Day must be a big holiday for them. All of Boston, right?
Oh, yeah, yes. But the parade is actually in Southie.
What parade are we talking about here?
The St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, the St. Patrick's Day. The parade.
The parade. Where everybody wears green and drinks too much parade.
Too much green beer.
I have a question about this parade.
Yes.
So my big question is, do they give out candy in the parade? And
No,
they do not give out candy.
No.
So,
that throwing candy at people, they would never do that. Number one, they would never throw candy because someone could get the eye poked out and then someone would be sued. So they would never do that in on the East Coast.
Okay, go ahead.
Also, it's hard to throw candy when you've got, when you're holding a beer. And in many cases, holding 2 beers.
Oh my.
Okay, my follow-up question is there a particular float that you remember from this parade that you can tell us about?
Oh no. So the thing is the St. Patrick's Day parade it's a bunch of Boston Irishmen.
There's no floats?
The floats are there, but what they usually consist of political figures and religious things. And
so
lots
they're
of people wearing green. So they're marching and they have floats, and it's usually local organizations that want to participate in the parade. A lot of them are, local Rotary, Lions clubs, and also the police are in the parade. Firemen are in the parade. Local politicians join in the parade. So that's really what the parade is. There aren't like kiddie floats and stuff like that, like a Macy's Day Parade.
Oh, cool. So this is really celebrating the Irish heritage and history that came across from Ireland and has grown up and bloomed here in the United States. We're celebrating that history, aren't we?
Right. And, in the past, I don't know about so much nowadays, but in the past, Boston did have a very large Irish immigrant population. As when I was young, it was still fairly, generations past. There were people coming over. We did have some IRA people who were hiding out in Boston that were there
Mhm.
during the 70s and stuff like that. And also, we had our Irish gangsters, everybody who might be familiar with Whitey Bulger, but
Yeah.
yeah. So half the Boston population during the 70s and early 80s were either politicians, policemen, or gangsters.
Or gangsters.
Yeah.
So that was early on. How has that morphed into like today's celebration of
Well,
St.
I
Patrick's
think
Day?
so. I haven't been in New England or the Boston area in over 20 years since I moved here, but it had already started changing before I left. There was quite a change from that area. It became much more diversified. Also, there was this thing called the Big Dig. I don't know if anyone out. A lot
For
of
the
our
tunnel?
listeners-
Yeah,
so
the big tunnel.
So
A lot of
the,
work.
So the tunnel, but also part of that was to extend ramps and get-ons and get-offs in the Boston area, because previously Southie had been kind of separated from the rest of the city by the Route 195 that passed through one section of the city and Southie, and so it was kind of isolated. In order for to get from Southie to Boston proper, if you were going to drive, you had to drive from Chinatown and kind of swing around and then get on 95 for a little bit and get off. It was kind of difficult to get from Southie to Boston proper. That all changed with the Big Dig, because now the Big Dig had a ramp, right? Southie had a ramp right on and right off now. So it was easy to get on, easy to get off. But that also kind of opened it up to a lot of other people noticing, hey, Southie's right next to Boston. It's right next to Government Center. It's right next to the business district. Geez, and those properties at the time are pretty cheap, because
So I have a
yeah.
question for you. Have you heard of the town I can't pronounce? I'm going to spell it. SCITUATE.
What?
It's in
Yes,
Boston. I'm
indeed.
looking it up, and it said, according to the 2010 census, the Massachusetts coastal town of what I just spelled for you
Scouty?
is home to the higher concentration of people who trace their ancestry back to Ireland than any other town in the United States.
I'm
So
not
it's
really sure.
SCAUETE?
SCITUATE.
Situate?
SC.
Situate?
I'm gonna. Is that
I
what
think
it
it's
is?
Situate. I think
Yeah,
you're talking about
that's what it
Situate.
sounds like.
Yeah, Situate. I'm not really sure about that. I mean, like I said, I'm Southie. Situate. Situate, yes. I'm very well aware of Situate.
Situate, yeah, okay.
It's a blue collar community, or used to be. Again, 20 years away, and a lot of those communities are no longer blue collar communities. They've actually transformed into really affluent neighborhoods now.
Mhm.
And it's really weird. So a lot of those people who used to live in those Irish communities, like in Southie, can't even afford to be there anymore. There's still people who are longtime residents that are still there. I don't think my cousins are even there anymore. I think they had to leave. But Boston is such a different city. Well,
Today.
well, during St. Patrick's Day. During St. Patrick's Day, it is such a celebration, because you have the parade, which is everyone's wearing green. It's a gigantic event. This year they're having it actually on the 19th.
On the 19th, why?
They're having, because if you had it on the 17th, it would interfere with all the business that goes on in Boston on a weekday. So
So they're doing it on a Sunday?
they're doing it on. Oh yeah, Sunday celebrations back east are a bigger thing. I know here that they reserve Sunday for church-going and people who want to go worship, and they don't have a lot of activities. But on Sunday, Sunday's a very big activity day.
In Boston?
on the East Coast. On the East Coast.
Oh.
On the East Coast. So they're having on Sunday, so they don't interfere with the regular business of people who work and live in Boston. Because again, Boston is much more diverse And so not everyone's going to be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and they still need to do their work. So they're going to have the celebration on the 19th. But
okay, hey Paul, but along with this celebration and the parade and wearing green and drinking beer and stuff, I mean, there's good food on St. Patrick's Day as well, right?
Yeah. So, and that's the whole thing. The entire city of Boston is kind of taken over by St. Patrick's Day. So you'll have all the tourist spots like Government Center, Faneuil Hall, even the North End will, be taken over by this. Like, I remember celebrations at Boston and going to Faneuil Hall, and you are shoulder to shoulder in Faneuil Hall with people who are celebrating St. Patrick's Day. And and people are drinking beer in public, and it's like one of those days where it's like what are you gonna do? They're celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I mean, there's a good police presence during those times as well, but everyone, it is so crowded and so packed. But Faneuil Hall is also a place of that you can find all kinds of different foods and so forth if you're a tourist. And that's kind of, they start celebrating St. Patrick's Day by having a much larger amount of Irish food that's available. A lot of the pubs that are off those areas are serving food at that time, and also playing live music. That's another thing, is a lot of these pubs like the Black Rose and stuff like that will have live music all day through the night of celebrating Irish heritage. So there's a lot of that, and they have informal or semi-formal pub crawls in the Boston area, so that you can go from one Irish pub to the other. That's the thing is in Southie, during St. Patrick's Day, they're calling them Irish pubs, but the rest of the year, the Southie residents just call them the bar.
The bar.
The bar.
There it comes again, the bar.
The bar. So so again, there's that Irish heritage, but it's kind of on public display during St. Patrick's Day, where every other day of the week of the year it's just Southie and Boston, and
Do they do anything? I mean, isn't there a river running around there somewhere?
Charles River. So at some point they would dye it green, and I couldn't see whether that's still something that they do or not. I mean, times change, but yeah, they would dye the Charles River green. Which, here's the thing: is I don't know if Gary, I know you
did it last year.
Okay, so they dye the Charles River green, which is off the little area. It's off of Boston proper, but in the evening on St. Patty's Day, they'll have fireworks. And the shore of the Charles River will be just peppered with people, like just so many people. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people watching fireworks and celebrating. I mean, it's kind of a madhouse to get into Boston is one thing, but after the fireworks, to get out of Boston.
Yeah, tough with all those people.
So it's really it's one of the cities in the United States that is all in on this particular holiday.
Oh yeah.
So can you tell me about the fireworks? Are they traditional fireworks, or are they all green and white?
From what I can remember, they were mostly traditional fireworks. I remember going there, and you kind of try to find your space on the shore, and they're usually very traditional, but I believe they're peppered with a lot of green throughout, especially near the crescendo.
Okay, also I have a question. Other than what is that traditional Irish dish? The cabbage, corned beef and cabbage. Other than corned beef and cabbage, what is your favorite Irish dish to eat on St. Patrick's Day?
Really, my mom was, bless my mom, she was not the greatest cook, so we just had the corned beef and cabbage when I was a kid. They do have this that odd potato dish.
Bangers and mash?
Well, bangers and mash is also English as well. But yes, that's the thing. And I used to, I do like bangers and mash. But there's this potato dish that's like a casserole, and
It's almost like a shepherd's pie, isn't it?
yeah, So, and there's a tradition of hiding coins in it for good luck.
Coins.
Coins.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
bake them. You baking the coins in there,
Yeah,
or is that
yeah,
coming
and
afterwards?
no, you put it in coins. You know what? I just realized I forgot to wear my clatter ring today. I was gonna wear my clatter ring.
Ah.
And I
Well,
forgot to
wait a
wear
minute.
that.
Wait a minute. How can you be? Isn't that dangerous? Putting coins and then cooking them and with all that metal and everything inside your
Well,
food?
well, I guess if you get the coin and you choke on it, I guess
Ah.
you really didn't get the good luck.
No good luck there.
But yeah, so I just remember that, Boston, in New England, and it kind of, ripples out from Boston as well, becomes a thing because, a lot of people over time, like me, moved from the city into the suburbs. Everyone kind of, St. Patrick's Day was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I see people in our office here wearing green, but they don't have any special plans. Whereas back east, it was you had plans. You had plans. What are you gonna do? Going to the bar tonight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Going to the bar tonight. And then and my mom's making corned beef for cabbage.
You sound like Goodwill Hunting, man.
Well,
Well, wasn't that like Boston?
So here's
Yeah.
the thing. They were actually from Dorchester, which is right next to Southie, which when we lived in there, we kind of lived in the Dorchester, just over the line, because we were even poorer than the people that lived in Southie when I was little.
Wow, how things have changed, man. What a great journey you've been on, and then to take us on this little one of the memories that you have of that time. I mean, compared to what you saw growing up there in Boston and Southie, compared to that now here, this is kind of mild out west.
Oh yeah,
That celebration.
I mean, I guess I'm probably the one Irishman that's not not really a drinker, and I guess maybe I was more suited to out here than back there.
Mhm.
Though that would be the one day that I would drink.
Yeah, what a cool journey. Hey, Boston's also a great sports town. But what
Oh, yeah.
happens? What happens? Like I think it's the Celtics, if they have a game on this night, or don't they have games on this night?
No, they I don't think they really run any sports. I mean, the thing is we're in March, so there would be basketball around that time.
Yeah, it's going on right now.
Yeah. So I would go to Celtics games, but
Yeah.
just typically you're not going to do. See, that's the whole thing. I'm sorry.
But not
I-
not on this
I-
celebratory day.
Well, I know I'm despairing my my own heritage here, but it's an opportunity to drink.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have a game because they know everyone's going to go to the parade and
And then the bar.
celebrate.
Okay.
But yeah, no. But here's the thing, in Boston, if you live in that area, you're taking almost any excuse to celebrate.
Uh-huh.
And if it's either St. Patrick's Day or a Celtics win, you'll take it.
Oh man, great comparison between those two, and it is such an amazing sports town. I mean, with baseball, with football, with basketball, everything
Oh,
else
yeah.
they got going on there, and then add this in. That must have been a marvelous time, marvelous place for you to grow up and learn in, And I just envy you that kind of history that you've been able to bring. That's super.
Well, the sports thing is, there's nothing like going. Again, been here for a long time, but I remember going to a Celtics game and see Larry Bird just go 3 points, 3 points,
3 points.
3 points,
You were very fluid in that shot.
3
man.
points. And it was amazing because he just started going down the court and just over the halfway mark, whoop, and
Yeah.
the team would just have to the defense team would already be at the line, and they just have to scramble back again because he didn't even take the time to get all the way down to that before he shot his 3-pointer. I just remember watching him do that, and again, that was the glory days of Bird, McHale, Danny Ainge, and it was just the Celtics, man.
It's the Celtics, yeah. Well, hey, we're reaching the end of our time on this podcast. I'm sorry, man. As a memory, if you had something to share that you'd like everybody to hear and remember, and think, hey, this was a special time. Do you have a cherished memory of that time of St. Patrick's Day back east in Boston?
Well, I think the time on St. Patrick's Day is making those trips into Boston with my brother, and us being together and celebrating that time. My brother, I don't know if anyone, our listeners know this, is I have a twin brother.
Yes.
And he's still back on the East Coast, and I communicate with him all the time, but it's these times that we would go in, go to celebrate, drink too much, get in a fight, and then make up, and know that you don't have that kind of bond with anyone else but your brother, especially your Irish brother.
So I have something to add to this. If anyone is looking to learn a little bit of the history of St. Patrick's Day, our wonderful intern Kayla wrote a blog about St. Patrick's Day history that you can find on Continuing Education's blog at cetrain.isu.edu/blog.
Cool. That's nice. And she's a good writer too. We need to wrap this up, Paul. This has been a wonderful trip for us. For all of you who are tuned in, you go, what is going on? We decided to have a little special quick podcast on St. Patrick's Day here in Pocatello, Idaho. And we are with our true 100% blood Irishman, Paul Dickey, who had great memories there. We have Angela Wilhelm, who's got a piece of that in her, and we all are really enjoying St. Patrick's Day here and that trip. Paul, thank you so much for sharing, and let's be a part of that. That was awesome.
Well, thanks for asking me on and telling these old stories.
Yeah.
Everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day, and then have a really safe weekend.
Absolutely. So long, everybody.